Happy Thursday. Hope everybody is doing super well. My name is Tsepo Khapane and I'm part of the team at Black Bullion South Africa. Welcome to our webinar on financial mythbusters, smashing myths and serving truth. That's what today is all about. Please drop me a message in the chat box and let me know where are you currently tuning in from. And of course, you can also find us on social media. The hashtag is MSWSA25. Right? So the webinar is in support of Money Smart Week 2025, a national campaign to encourage South Africans to better manage their money. And like I mentioned earlier on, my name is Tsepo Kapan and I'm part of the team at Black Bullion South Africa. I will be your host this lunchtime. There's so much to look forward to. It's all about myth busting, right? And as you know, at Black Bullion South Africa, we're all about young people. Our mission is to ensure that young people have the skills, have the knowledge to become financially savvy, to make better decisions with their money. Right. So we've got an amazing youth focused digital financial education platform. And if you'd like to get free access, all you need to do is scan the QR code on the screen. We'll pop a link in the chat and you will get access to 30 modules, a budgeting tool, a money personality quiz, all completely free, courtesy of Sanlam Foundation, who are our partners. So much to look forward to in terms of today's webinar. There are so many things that are on our menu, but everything is fun. Everything is fun, right? So first and foremost, we'll tell you a bit about how you can win some Bitcoin, courtesy of our friends at Luno. I'll be introducing 3 of our amazing speakers. Goodness me. We'll be playing a game of 10 money myths. So we'll chat a bit about that. We'll also talk a bit about where do you go to get financial advice, right? I've seen some people saying some horrendous things on TikTok. I'm like, no, this can't be true. This one is a lie. We'll also talk a bit about risk and reward, things like crypto, investing, gambling, scams, and then we'll hand over to you, people that are part of the webinar. For a Q&A, you'll get a chance to ask our amazing guests any questions that you might have. And of course, we'll announce some winners, so those that have won themselves a little bit of some Bitcoin, and then we'll bring the webinar to a wrap. Right, so I'm going to quickly jump into the chat. Let me see where people are watching us from. Mpo says, I'm all the way in Cape Town. Kanyisa says, hey, I'm also tuning in from Cape Town. Lots of people from Cape Town representing. Mtogoza says, hi, everybody. I'm tuning in from Johannesburg. Tulufelo says, good day, everyone. Tulufelo, let me know where you're currently watching us from. Where are you? I'm all the way in Johannesburg, right? So drop into the chat. Let us know where exactly you're watching from. Nkensani says, I'm out in Pretoria. Mpumelele says, I'm tuning in from Johannesburg, East Rand. Right? So we've got people all over the country tuning into our webinar. So I know people want them goodies. People want to know how do you land on some goodies, right? So we've got 3 Bitcoin vouchers courtesy of our friends at Luno. Each voucher is worth $200, right? So in order to enter, so that you stand a chance to win, you've got to do one of 3 things, right? So you've got to engage in the chat box, you've got to follow us on social media, or you've got to ask questions and share your thoughts and opinions in the chat. The more you engage, the greater your chance of winning. So please don't be shy. Don't be shy. And of course, if you're looking for us on social media, we are on Facebook, we are on X, we are on Instagram. We recently launched on TikTok. My beautiful face is not on our TikTok account yet. I don't know why. Got to talk to our marketing manager. Why my face is not there? But that's okay. You can also find us on LinkedIn. Of course, you can also pop us an email, blackbullion@wafunda.com. Right? So that's where we are in terms of social media. Let me go back to the chat. Kamukelo says, I'm out in Jozi. Kiabetswe Kruger Stop. Senzegile says, good afternoon. Or well, I'm out in Joburg. Mbali representing Pretoria. So we've got young people spread across the country joining us for our webinar. So let me introduce our amazing speakers. You know, the people that know everything. I'm just here to be the host, right? So we've got Taris, who is a business development manager out at Luna. We'll be bringing him onto stage. We've got Talia, who is an amazing financial advisor, founder of Fashionably Financial. She even looks fashionable. You will see her with the gloss. She looks fashionable. And of course, one of my absolute faves, Rochelle, also known as Soul Fairy on social media, a finance executive. And I know she is very, very, very passionate about financial education. So I'm going to bring our speakers onto the screen. Please, we may not be able to hear you, but clap wherever you are, clap, flate wherever you are. I'm going to be bringing them onto the screen. We're going to be bringing these amazing guests. I see Talia is there. Taris is also there as well. Rochelle is also there. Guys, thank you so much for joining us for this fantastic webinar. We appreciate you. We love you. And you guys are doing some amazing work. We'd like to start with today's webinar around Mythbusters. All the financial advice, the golden rules we've heard from friends, from families, from our grannies. We hear people on social. Hey, it's crazy with all these things that we hear about money. But before we get into that, I want to know from you guys, our speakers, right? I'm very, very keen to know what's the best piece of financial advice you've ever received, and who was it from? Right. So maybe let's start with you, Rochelle. What's the best piece of financial advice that you've ever received, and who was it from? And then those that are attending the webinar, let us know in the chat. What's the best piece of financial advice you've ever gotten? Rochelle, over to you. Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you so much, TK. It is lovely to be here. So, yeah, I'm going to say the best piece of financial advice that has made me a lot of money at my age of 46 was my mother told me when I left Cape Town at the age of 22 to start my very first job at Cecil. She said, save 10% of everything you earn. Now, I did not know at that time that, and this is 20, I'm giving my age away. This is like over 20 years ago, right? Let me say it like that. And I didn't know what to do with that 10% at that point in time. Didn't know about the stock market. Bitcoin didn't exist at that time. Terrace, it was the early 2000s, so Bitcoin wasn't invented yet. But my mother told me to save 10% of everything I earn. And I have been doing that since I started work. And I'm very close to retiring, even though I don't look like it.
You know what? You don't look a day over 20. I think that's fantastic advice. I think the sooner you start to learn saving, it almost becomes a little bit of a habit. So I think that advice is absolutely amazing. Let me bring it to you, Taris. What's the best piece of financial advice you've ever received? And most importantly, who was it from?
I think, like Rochelle, I also got amazing advice from my mother about saving and investing in the future. But another piece of financial advice that has helped me, particularly when it came to making decisions around big purchases, was if you can't afford to buy two of something, you can't afford it. And I believe that came from Jay-Z. It's definitely helped me avoid a lot of very, very expensive mistakes.
Oh, tell me about expensive mistakes. I've made a whole lot of them. And it seems the theme around parents giving good advice is also coming up in the chat quite a lot. So I'll read a couple of those. Over to you, Talia. I'm very keen to know what's the best piece of financial advice you've ever received, and who was it from?
Awesome. Thank you for my compliment on saying that I'm fashionable. I do try to put the fashion in Fashionably Financial. So thank you for noticing. But yeah, the best piece of advice that I received was, your future self will thank you for taking imperfect action today rather than waiting for that perfect moment, which never comes. And I think that speaks a lot towards investing as well. We often think that, we need to know everything and, it needs to be absolutely perfect the moment. We need to be earning X amount in order for us to take that next step. And I think that often that's simply not the case. Rather take that imperfect action today.
Oh man, that's some beautiful advice. Yeah, it seems like we've gotten a whole lot of good vibes. When I'm reading a couple of messages in the chat real quickly, Asianda says, my aunt always said, money is the thorn of pulling you out. Ooh, such a deep one. Mudau says, pay yourself first. I actually got this from Soul Fairy. So we even got some people here that are showing some love and showing some support. Masabata says, never buy food on credit. So yeah, lots of people have heard a lot of different things. And it's going to be interesting as we demystify some of these things. But I thought we need to start on a positive note by sharing some advice that we've gotten from the people closest to us. So there's so many myths when it comes to money, things that we've heard on social media from friends, from family, from people at the taxi rank, from people in the office, from people on campus. We've heard all types of things around money. Some good, some bad, some is absolutely diabolical. Those are some of the things that I've absolutely heard. So I think we're going to play a little bit of a game. We're going to play a game with our three speakers, and you guys that are tuning in for the webinar, please also tune into the game. So this is the game that we're going to play, right? It's called a game of 10 money myths, right? So we've put together a list, right, of 10 common money myths. Each myth will be revealed, right? So I've got this list. I'll reveal this list, right? Then I want to know from our speakers whether they think the myth is true, whether they think it's false, whether they think it is complicated, right? And if all of our guests, all of our panelists agree that the myth is true or it's false, they all agree, we'll move on. We'll move on to the next myth, right? But if one of our panelists disagrees, one says it's true, one says it's false, or any of them says it's complicated, we will need to discuss it. We'll need to break it down. We'll need to understand what is going on. Panelists, are you guys ready for our 10 myths? Alrighty, so I don't know if you guys have a sign for truth or false, or you we'll figure this thing out, but we've got the 10 minutes, right? Okay, so everybody's got a way to tell us whether they think it's true, false. I see Rochelle's got hers. Taris, have you got your way to tell us? True, false, complicated, he's got his. Tyler, have you got yours?
Yes.
I'm gonna sort you out. Alrighty. So let's go to our first myth. Let's let it pop up on the screen. First myth. Enjoy your money while you're young. You can always save and worry about it when you're older. Don't stress. Tapa, don't stress. This 10% you heard from Solfair, don't stress. Just keep living. You are fresh and young. So I want to know from our panelists, true, false, complicated. What are you guys bringing up on the screen? So false, complicated. This is one that needs to be discussed. I'm going to actually start with you, Taris. You are saying it's complicated. Why? Why is it so complicated?
I think, which I'm pretty sure my fellow panelists agree, sometimes youth is wasted on the young, and people, when you're young, you make very reckless decisions when it comes to money. But something I've also observed is if you do far to the other extreme and you never get to build a healthy relationship with spending money, it can really impact you later in life and build a really difficult relationship when it comes to money. And I do think just being human and getting to enjoy human experience is important. But the most important thing is you've got a budget for them. You can't be going out to the club every single week. Can't be buying like a new Xbox every year. You need to be like, hey, I know this is my 21st birthday is coming up. I want to do XYZ. It's going to cost me 400 Rand. I have 12 months to plan for it. Where can I make some sacrifices to get there? But yeah, I think it's about building healthy relationships with your money.
I get you and agree with you. And I think what you're talking about a bit is also finding that balance. Talia, I know you said it's false. So I'm keen to hear from you. What are your thoughts on enjoy your money while you're young? You can save and worry about it when you're a whole lot older.
Yes. So I think that while we do need to enjoy our money while we are young, there's an actual study that's been done where when looking at the past, people in your life, it's a combination of both good and bad things. And when we look towards the future, us as human beings, we are optimistic people. And that's great. It's a positive attitude. But as I said, when we look at the past, it's a combination of both good and bad things that happen in our lives. So often people think that retirement is such a far way away, and I'll start saving when I reach that salary or when I reach that title. And next thing you know, it happens a lot faster than you think. And starting early, compound interest, which is interest on interest, is one of the 8th wonders of the world, they say. And if you start very young, you will not be sorry. So I think that while I'm all about living life fashionably financial, have fun right now, but make sure you are looking after your future self.
That makes so much sense. I do think when you're young, you sort of like, oh, I've got time, but things happen, Rochelle Soulfairy, I know you were saying 10%. That was the best piece of advice. So I know you put up false. So I'm keen to hear from you. Why did you put up false? What are your thoughts?
So for me, right, saving and investing is about a habit. The earlier you start building a habit, the better, whether it is good or bad. And saving and investing is a good habit. The most powerful tool that anybody, any investor has at their disposal is called time. It is not the rand amount. It is called time. That compound interest. Compound interest does not work for you if you have 5 years. It does not work beautifully for you when you have 8 years. Compound interest is insane when you have 40 years. So I need people to use the easiest yet the most powerful tool to their advantage, and it's called time. So I am not going to release you from starting as early as possible.
Oh, I absolutely love that. And a lot of people are agreeing as well in the chat. Lots of people saying false. Kamukelo says false, laughs in missed compound interest, which is exactly what Rochelle was talking about. Kuselo says a fair answer. You find that balance after you've spent that money on something not so smart. So lots of really interesting comments coming from people in the chat. Alrighty, so we're going to get into myth number 2. We're going to bring it up onto the screen. Lots of interesting myths. Myth number 2, budgeting is only for broke people. So what I've often heard when I'm talking to people about budgeting, they're like, no, when you've got money, you don't budget. So when I'm at Mall of Africa, I just swipe because I've got money, I am rich. So only those who are struggling will be doing a budget. These are the things that I've heard. These are the things that people are saying to me. I'm shocked too, but I'm not here to judge. So over to my panelists. Is it true? Is it false? Is it complicated? Get those screens up. And of course, let us know in the chat, what are your thoughts? So I'm seeing false, false, false. We're in agreement. We don't even need to discuss it. Please, guys, budget. And if we get a chance later on, we'll talk a bit about the importance of budgeting. That one is very, very simple, right? So we're going to get into myth number 3, right? So we're going to bring it up onto the screen. Rather buy property than rent, because buying property is always a good investment. So I know when I started working, my dad was like, the first thing you must do, forget about the GTIs, forget about the cars, buy property. It doesn't matter even where, just buy it. It will always be a good investment. I don't know. So rather buy property than rent, because buying property is always a good investment. Right, over to our panelists. True, false, complicated. I'm also going to have a quick look as well to see in the chat. I want to see from our panelists, what are you guys' thoughts? Rochelle was thinking a bit about it. False, false, complicated, which it means it's what we need to discuss. All right, I'm going to start with you, Rochelle, all right? Because you took a while to bring it up. So, Rochelle, what are your thoughts? You're between false and complicated. Let us know. What are your thoughts?
So here's the thing, right? Property is a very person specific. It's personal. We say personal finances, and we use the word personal very loosely often. What is right for me will never be right for Talia or for Terrace or for TK, right? So if I look at myself, right, think of a young person who's working, who has never owned a home, who's grown up in a shack, who's never had a place to call their own. They drive, they dream, they everything is to own property, right? For me, I want to give them an out. I want to say, buy yourself a home. Buy yourself a home. Learn what ownership feels like. Because even investing, owning a part of a company, owning cryptocurrencies, it's about ownership at the end of the day. The part where I was like in two minds, right, was that it's always a good investment. It's not always a good investment. It's the location, it's the price you pay. There's a lot of other things that comes into play. But if it is the right thing for you, do it, because it gives you something more than just It's more than money. It's more than finances. It gives you a sense of, this is mine. Nobody can take it away from me when you fully own it. So that's why I was like, it's complicated because it's going to depend on the person sitting in front of me if I advise them whether to buy property or not.
That's true. I saw, Taris, you were also holding false and complicated, sort of playing that balance. And I know you and Talia were also like sort of nodding as Rochelle was speaking about that. Taris, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I think that to Rochelle's point, it's the always that gets you for me in this one. It's definitely not always a good investment. The market can be in a bad place, but most importantly, to Rochelle's point, it really depends on the person. I think the renting versus buying debate will go on for centuries. I think a lot of times it can make a lot more sense financially to rent. Other times in 20 years, you'll end up getting a great windfall from buying because you were able to get into a great area. So I do think you need to have kind of introspection on yourself and make sure that you're making the best choice for your circumstances where you feel comfort. I'm also part of the Soul Fairy Twitter gang, and I've seen a lot of your Rochelle's tweets about some of the troubles you had when you were a landlord and people have as landlords. And it's definitely something that when you go into that space, you have to be prepared for.
Yeah, that makes quite a lot of sense. Talia, I mean, you work with clients, people that want to invest their money, and I'm sure they come with their own ideas and own myths to say, I have to invest in property. So, I mean, I'm very keen to hear what your thoughts are and what you say to some of your clients as well.
Yeah, for sure. So I think the property renting buying question, as Tara said, I think this will probably go on forever, this debate of what's the best thing to do. I think one thing that people don't always think about when buying a property is it's not just that value that you see on property 24 for the price of the house, right? There are bond registration fees, there are transfer costs, there's conveyancer fees as well. So there are a lot of costs that actually come into play when wanting to buy a property, which people don't think about. And I mean, I used to be one of those people. When I was in my early 20s, I thought that what you see on property 24, that's it. Cool, let's go. But that's not the case. So it's just something to keep in mind. Of course, on the more emotional financial goal side of things, buying a property is definitely a big financial milestone in anyone's life, right? And to that point, it's an emotional decision then. So oftentimes when buying a property, there will be emotion attached to that. And sometimes some people may say that, your primary residence, the place where you live, is not necessarily an investment. Because this is where you are living, every day. You're not going to sell the house now if, the market goes up by 20% or whatever it is. So yeah, that's why I do also think it is complicated, this renting versus buying. But, if it is the right thing for you and you've run the numbers, most importantly, then go for it if that is your financial goal.
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of people in the chat are agreeing, saying it's complicated and it depends on so many factors, right? We can't sort of use this blanket statement for everybody. So seems all of us are in agreement in terms of that. We're going to move on to our next myth. Right, so our next myth is going to come up onto the screen. There are 10 of these myths. We're going to move on to the next one. So there's this really interesting rule called the 50-30-20 rule. And it basically speaks a bit about budgeting, right? And how you split your money, right? So I'm keen to know from our guests, those who know better than a lot of us, what their thoughts are on whether this rule is true. Is it false? Does it make sense? Does it not make sense? I know some people have never even heard of it. So the rule basically says that when it comes to budgeting, with your money, 50% of your money needs to go to your needs, 30% of it goes to your wants, and then 20%, the last 20% goes to your savings and your debt repayment. We're always told it's a great way to split your money. So over to you guys, our panelists. Is it true? Is it false? Is it complicated? What on earth is going on with this one? Let us know. Alrighty, false, complicated, false. Alrighty, so Talia, I'm going to start with you because you said it's complicated, right? So I want to hear from you quickly. Why do you say it's complicated?
Yes. So I like the 50-30-20 rule, but I think it's a guideline. It's just a sort of rule of thumb that's out there. It's one of many, right? So it might not always work for you. So I have a budget template for 50, 30, 20, and I often give this out to my clients as well. And I ask them to put in their details. But sometimes, 30 or 40% of your budget is actually going to your wants. And that's okay, right? As long as you are prioritizing. We can't always be fitting into these perfect boxes. As Rochelle said in the beginning, personal finance is personal. So we shouldn't be made to feel bad if we are not hitting these rules of thumbs. But sometimes a rule of thumb is great because it gives you guidance. Often the world of personal finance feels complicated. There's so much information out there, and we get into this like analysis paralysis where we can't make a decision because we're actually taking in too much information. And then a rule of thumb does work in that sort of scenario. So that's why I say it's complicated. I like it, but we don't always have to stick to that one.
Definitely. And I'm assuming, Sol, you agree with that it's more of a guideline, but it's not really going to apply to everybody.
Agreed, TK. For me, the stage of life where you are at is very, very important when it comes to budgeting, right? If you take somebody in retirement, they are going to tell you, I'm not saving and investing anymore. I'm now actually living off my investments. Whereas if you ask somebody who's just starting to work, right, it's very, very hard to put 20% towards your towards saving and investing. So it is just a guideline, but guidelines are there for a reason, right? They exist because it has worked somewhere before. But I don't want people to feel like they need to fit into a box. Use it as a guideline, see it as a guideline, and adjust it for yourself. But as long as you have each of the categories, you can't have, you're still building a future, you're still moving towards retirement, but you are at 0% in the saving and investing category, then it means you've thrown the guideline to the wind. You've basically thrown it out. So then it won't work. Did we lose TK? Should I become the host?
I will say, building off of what both of you said, I definitely, the 50, 30, 20 split is definitely something my mom had really, really encouraged me to do. And it was very much something like you try work towards. And I agree, like for some people, it's difficult. Where we live, people spend 80% on their needs. But yeah, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but it's a great starting point.
For the show, power being cut and also, but you know what, still going to talk about these myths. So I do agree with you guys. I think having that balance, having that guideline, I think one of the comments was around, it's such an outdated sort of guideline, and it's not very realistic for a lot of people. So you almost use it, but you also say, how does this really apply to my life? Which I think we're definitely all in agreement with. So we're going to get on to the next myth. Right, so let's pull up the next myth as we continue to go through our 10 myths, and of course hear from our panelists in terms of what is true, what is false, and what is complicated. Number 5, there is no such thing as good debt. All debt is bad. Over to our panelists. Is this true, false? Is this complicated? This one always gets people a little bit shaky. False, complicated, and false. All righty. So, Taris, kick it off for us. You're saying it's definitely false. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's when you speak to extremes, that all debt being bad is definitely not true. Lots of debt can be bad, and it falls often into the circumstances that you have acquired that debt, essentially, in the terms that you have it on. I think particularly later in life, as you've built up assets, it becomes a lot easier to access more favorable debt and good debt that you can use as a leverage to unlock a lot of opportunities. I think particularly though when you're younger and you don't have a lot of a credit history to access and be able to get into that really good debt space, then you should probably be treating all debt as bad debt, because they can get you into the cycle where you're constantly trying to pay off someone else. But once you're building up that base and you can get access to better rates, it can be a really, really powerful tool for you to access different types of assets and opportunities.
Very interesting. Talia, you said it's complicated, so I'm keen to hear from you. What are your thoughts?
Yes, I think that to agree with what Taris is saying as well, the debt, allows you to access opportunities that maybe you wouldn't have been able to access. I think it's still debt at the end of the day. That's why I say it's complicated, because good, bad, it's still debt, right? It's still something that you need to pay back. Good debt is what we often consider like a bond or like a mortgage. When you wanting to buy a property, often, not a lot of people have that full lump sum available. So then you will have to get a bond. And then a bond can be seen as a good debt because it allows you to purchase your home, your property. But I think that the important thing with debt is that it must be managed well. And if I could just add a point here, when repaying debt, whether that's your monthly installments, etc., never just pay the monthly installments. If that's all you can do, that's perfectly fine. But if you can do more, you should always do slightly more. Because what we were talking about earlier, that compound interest, it can also work against you, especially when it comes to debt. So it should just be managed very well.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Rochelle, what are your thoughts? The one thing I am picking up in the chat is that a lot of people are scared of debt. So I'm also keen to just hear from you as well.
So my students and mentees would know, right, that I give them a general definition of good debt versus bad debt. And I tell them that think about it like this. Good debt is debt that gives you access to an asset, right? And an asset is a home, a car. You need a car, right, to drive to work, etc. If the car is your business, a business, right, and yourself. Student debt. If you do not see yourself as your biggest asset, then you are doing something wrong. You don't believe in yourself. So if debt gives you access to an asset and you manage it responsibly, you can never get away from that. You can't go and buy a trash asset and call it an asset, because it means there's no future economic benefit from the asset, right? So if it is an asset with future economic benefits that's going to put money, knowledge back into your pocket, that's good debt. If it's gotten at the right rate over the right time frame, look at it like that. Any debt that you spend on an expense, you're going to buy something that, you're going to buy food on credit, for instance. It cannot be good debt, because before you even sign on the dotted line, swipe the card, the expense is gone. You don't know what you've done with the money. So for me, it's really a short-term versus long-term debt of what are you using it for? Is it for an asset? Is it at a good rate? Can you manage the payments? So debt is complicated, but I truly do not believe that all debt is bad.
Wow, that makes sense. I think you guys have given us so much knowledge and things to really think about. So let's get on to the next myth. We're going to bring that up. And of course, I hope our panelists are ready. I am seeing all the comments as well. Number 6, always have multiple streams of income, right? Always have those multiple streams of income. If you've got a chance to make, that buck here, there, here, and there, it's a good thing. From our panelists, is it true? Is it false? Is it complicated? What is it? We're seeing complicated, I'm shocked. True. So there's a little bit of a disagreement here. Rochelle, I want you to start quickly. Why is it true? And then I want to come to the two that said it's complicated. And then I want to come into some chats as well. Rochelle, over to you. You're saying it's true.
I do. I really believe that people should have multiple streams of income. I think the word that will throw us here is always, right? But I'm going to make an argument for this, right? For me, multiple streams of income always provides you with an opportunity for growth or learning. And I live by growth and learning. I do not. The comfort zone is probably the worst zone you can ever live in. And if you get into a comfort, it's very easy getting into a comfort zone in a job, right? It's very easy getting into a comfort zone. If I start my own little business, I'm just going to focus on this little thing. Guys, if it fails, putting all your eggs in one basket, it is not a saying. It doesn't just come out of the air, right? If you want to protect, if there's a person in this room who has gotten inflationary increases in the past 5 years since COVID hit, you are the most luckiest person in the world, because I've been seeing 2% and 3%. So my hustle has been keeping my income in line with inflation. So you are protecting your income against inflation by hustling. And you are selling your time to a corporate, and I'm not speaking to the hustlers in the room now, I'm speaking to the corporate guys, right? You are selling your time 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week, right? You are not a slave. If you are only selling 8 hours a day, you sleep a little bit, you bath and eat and what, you have time. You have sufficient time to fill in surveys, to sell your knowledge, to sell your time, to do something else. Because in this world, in Cyril's economy, if you are dependent on one stream of income, you are one paycheck or two paychecks away from sleeping under a bridge. So get your ass up and start hustling.
Oh, Rochelle, that's a really powerful argument. I mean, Tsekofatso saying, in Ramaphosa's economy, goodness me, Mataba saying the same thing. Ramaphosa's economy is giving us anxiety. So I'm so keen to hear from Taris and Talia. I do, it's such a, I'm so confused now. I need to be convinced by somebody. Talia, I'm going to give it to you, and then I'm going to bring it to Taris. You said it's complicated. I'm keen to hear from you.
Yes, and I think it's hard to follow after Rochelle's powerful message. But I am a big believer in multiple streams of income, and I'm a big advocate for it as well. I think that, it's so important. And as Rochelle said, if you one paycheck away from, sleeping under a bridge, something terrible happening. And the funny thing is that not all of us are hustlers. I feel like everyone who's probably in this webinar today are entrepreneurs, hustlers at heart, but not all of us are hustlers. And I think that sometimes, if you have a corporate job and you are thriving in that job and you are happy in that job and you don't want to have a side hustle, you don't need to. And prime example is my husband. So I have begged him to start thinking of something else that he can do. And he often says to me, Talia, it's not who I am. That's who you are. And I don't want that. And, that's also okay. I think that hustle culture it's also exhausting. I am someone who has multiple streams of income, and it's tiring to keep up with more than one thing. So I think that if it is your passion and if you want to have a side hustle and you naturally have a side hustle, that's amazing and that is great. If you're someone that, is not naturally entrepreneurial, give it a try. Still, you never know what's going to happen. But if it doesn't suit you, then that's also okay. Your investments can also be a stream of income. So yes, you have your day job, and then you've also got your investments where you could be earning an income from as well. So just another thing to think about.
Makes sense. Taris, what are your thoughts? It's definitely exhausting having your main job, your hustle, but also it's so important in this economy. It's so complicated. What are your thoughts?
I think, I definitely agree with Rochelle and Talia. It is important to have multiple streams of income, but I also think it's really important to be conscious of like the cost that can come with managing and maintaining multiple streams of income, whether it be like financially or mentally. I think it's very difficult for most people to start a side hustle that could get to like even maybe 30% of what they're earning on a salary. And that's why it's really, to me, important that people are really conscious about what they're moving into. So I think what Rochelle was saying is like a really good point. There are little things like doing surveys, spending your time, sharing your knowledge with someone that can help manage that kind of emotional and mental burnout, that capital burnout. But I'm also very conscious of people that take a lot of what they should be putting in savings and investing to start businesses that they are kind of chasing this hustle and grind culture idea and not really prepared for it, and then they get burnt. So I'm definitely not against multiple streams of income. I just think you need to be really conscious about the streams that you are starting to expose yourself to.
Yeah, and I think all the things that you guys are saying is exactly what's coming out in the chat. Spongile is saying life is too unpredictable to depend on one stream of income. Miranda is saying it's so complicated. Not all streams are made equal, but more income is becoming a necessity instead of luxury. And Paul saying it's so complicated, and that's the sense that I'm getting as I'm going through the comments. It is very, very complicated, but it is also a requirement. So it's almost like finding that balance. But I guess it also depends on who you are. Right, interesting. Let's get on to the next myth. We're going to bring it up onto the screen. Is it true? Is it false? Is it complicated? Investing is only for the rich or finance experts. Only for the rich or finance experts. Absolutely false. Investing is a big thing that we talk about on the Black Bullion platform. And I know our guests also speak quite highly about investing. Let's get on to our next myth. Myth number 8. Is it true? Is it false? Is it complicated? What is it? If SARS hasn't called, you're safe. They haven't SMS'd you, they haven't WhatsApped you. Don't stress. Side hustle cash doesn't count. Absolutely false. Please, guys, you need to pay tax. Please, we're not bailing you out, us. We're not bailing anybody out. So once again, tax is something that we talk about on the Black Bullion platform, whether you're earning an income, whether you've got a side hustle. It's such an important thing. Let's get on to number 9. True, false, or is it complicated? If you can afford the monthly payment, you can afford it. Right? I think it's really interesting. If you can afford the monthly payment, relax, take it easy. You've got it. Ooh, we've got it complicated. Alrighty. People on the chat, let me know if you can afford the monthly payment. Relax, you can afford it. Talia, you said it's complicated. I'm keen to hear from you.
So I think complicated in the sense that if you can afford the monthly payment, you can afford it. It's very risky to be thinking that way, because the monthly payment, you need to be thinking about the interest that is working against you to, that's accumulating as well. So yes, while it might feel like, okay, great, I can afford the monthly payment, I'm sorted. Don't forget that interest that is just accumulating in the background, making it more expensive for you, and you don't even realize it.
Makes sense. Rochelle, what are your thoughts? I know you were very quick to put up your vote. What are your thoughts on this?
I really don't think if you can afford the monthly payment, you can afford it. It's how they, and I think, Talia, you are the expert here, but what they look like, what they look at, right, when they grant you credit, it's not all encompassing. It does not, you can underplay your expenses, right? Things can come up. There isn't a huge margin of safety to say that even if interest rates go up by 5% tomorrow, Rochelle will still be able to afford this thing, right? It's dangerous. It's a very dangerous game to play, to say, I'm buying this GTI, it's 8,000 Rand a month and I can afford it because the bank tells me so. The bank, We Buy Cars, VW, everybody is telling you can afford it because they need the sale. You can't afford it 99% of the time. If you think of in terms of future value of money, time value of money, it really is hard because, I've worked in financial services. A lot of people cannot afford it. The businesses make it work. They make it work for you.
That makes sense. Taris, what are your thoughts? I've made this mistake where I bought something like a vehicle and I thought I'm just paying the bank, but then there's fuel, there's insurance, there's tracker, there's all these other things. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I definitely agree that meeting the bare minimum doesn't mean that you can afford something. And I think, and a lot of the comments in the chat also talking about, like, and you just said, TK, you buy a car, there's a million other extra things that come with it that maybe you didn't plan for. And it can be really easy. Like Rochelle said, people are throwing out these ads, 3,000 Rand, brand new car, all in. Like, that's a ton of money just as a starting point, let alone the insurance and everything else. I also think something that's important is, like, we've quite recently seen a huge increase in kind of buy now, pay later services, where now it's like lots of smaller things that you're paying 3 or 4 months, and it can be really helpful for a lot of people. But I do think even in those situations, you should be thinking, if I need a service to help spread this out over 3 months, what am I doing that I can't save for the next 3 months and then just buy it cash? So yeah, I think you do have to be super, super careful with that, trying to just always maintain the minimum.
For sure. You guys have hit all the points. Absolutely amazing. And lots of agreements in the chat. There are so many comments from everybody. Martha saying, very, very true, Rochelle, you're on point. Kamogelo saying, cost of ownership goes beyond just monthly payments. There's other things to consider as well. Righty, let's get on to the next one. Is it true? Is it false? Is it complicated? Let's bring it onto the screen. Number 10, the last one. Always buy something with cash than using credit. I think we've touched on this to a degree, but this one uses the word always, which makes it slightly different. Always buy something with cash than using credit. And especially when you talk to much older people, they're always saying cash is king. This thing of credit cards, no. If you're using a credit card, you can't afford it, leave it. Right? So is it true? Is it false? Is it complicated? I'm seeing a lot of false. I'm seeing a lot of complicated in the chat. Complicated has come up. We're all in agreement that it's complicated. So I'm going to give each of our speakers a quick second to just say why they think it's complicated. Taris, why is it so complicated?
I think there's a lot of good reasons as to why you want to buy something on credit and then pay it off with cash very quickly. It does help with things like building a credit score and building kind of those internal points that count towards all kinds of financial products in the future. But it also can be like a slippery slope where you start buying a bunch of things on credit and you're like, no, at the end of the month when I get paid, I'm gonna dump all my money into my debit, like into the credit card, I'll clean it all out. And then things happen and now you're 2 months out and you have 10,000 Rand on your credit that you're still trying to pay off and you can get into it. So I think you a lot of times it can be better, like a car, for example, try and buy that cash, but it doesn't, the reality is not all people can do that. So yeah, it's complicated.
Definitely complicated. Tyler, it is complicated, right?
It is complicated, yes. I think that things like, for example, buying flights, especially these days, I don't know if anyone's using Discovery Vitality points to get discounted flights. You need to buy those on your credit card to get the discount. So sometimes, we're sort of tied into using that credit card. But I don't see a huge problem with buying something on your credit card and then transferring the cash over within your interest-free period. The problem comes in, as Tara says, when maybe you forget or something like that, and then credit card interest is very, very high, and it gets very expensive very quickly. So that's why I say it's complicated.
And so I know you're in agreement. It's definitely complicated.
It's definitely complicated. It is about how you use the credit, right? It really is, because some people are just naturally inclined to let it spiral, and other people are extremely religious. I have the cash, I'm buying the flights, I'm getting the discount from Vitality, and I'm paying the cash over into the credit card. That's not all of us. Some of us are partying, growing to groove with that money. So, and then you say, I'm going to pay it month end. You're not. So it's safer to pay something cash, but you do need, if you are young, you have to build a credit score. It's something that gives you access to cheaper credit later. So you have to build a credit score. Always buying cash is not, it's not feasible in this capitalist society that we have.
That makes sense. That definitely makes sense. So we've come to the end of our 10 myths. There is one more myth that I want to touch on, and then I want us to go into the questions because there's so many questions, right, in the interest of time. And it is really around crypto. It's around risk, it's around reward. And I know a lot of our speakers are big on it. They understand it better than me. So I'm keen to hear from them. Most of the time, when we hear people talking about crypto, they make it sound very, very sexy, very, very delicious. And they say a lot of interesting things when it comes to crypto. So I've heard things like, you can get rich very quickly. I've then heard other people saying crypto's such a big scam. I keep hearing all these things, and I don't know what's true, right? So I want to just hear from each of our speakers. What are your thoughts around crypto, around some of these myths? What are the dangers of it? What have you experienced? And sort of wrap it up for us. And then after that, we'll get into a couple of questions. So those that have questions, those that have specific opinions, get into the chat in the meantime while I give my amazing speakers an opportunity to talk a bit about crypto, right? The risk and the reward. Talia, I'm going to start with you. What are your thoughts on crypto?
Yeah, so crypto, I think it is very volatile. That's for sure. Taris, you the crypto expert here. But not all of us can handle those big ups and downs, and then, meme coins. I don't really understand that, to be honest, either. So crypto, I think it can form part of your portfolio after the other financial pillars have been, sort of taken care of. So for me, crypto is with my fun money, money that I'm happy for it to fluctuate. If I see a little bit of losses there or a lot of losses, it's okay. So yeah, I think crypto definitely feels like it is a big part of the future, and we need to make sure that we are educated and up to speed because we don't want to be, left behind. But it is one of those markets where I personally do tread lightly at the moment.
That makes quite a lot of sense. Rochelle, I know you're also big on crypto. You've done a lot of content around that. So I'm keen to get your thoughts on all the myths we've heard on crypto. It's a scam. At Tepo, you can buy this coin and tomorrow you are the next Petrus Mutsepe. I've heard it all. What are your thoughts on?
Definitely not. You can hit and miss with crypto, right? It's understanding the space. So I am definitely not, Talia, a trade lightly. I've got a very big portion of my wealth is sitting in cryptocurrencies, and I lose no sleep. Bitcoin can go to 5,000 tomorrow, and I would lose zero sleep because of the belief that I have in blockchain. More than blockchain, I could ask TK, could probably speak about this for days, right? I've studied crypto, right? I do not believe it is a scam. What is the scam is trying to get rich quick in crypto, is not understanding the risks. That is the scam. If you understand the risks and I always say there is no amount of money that is worth me losing sleep over, right? So if something is going to cost me my sleep, it's too expensive, right? So with cryptocurrencies, there is, and Terrace is the expert, right? But there is the safer coins, there is, the large caps, you've got the medium caps, the mid caps, the small caps, and then you've got meme coins that is just an absolute joke, like the Trump coin, right? So for me, understand what you are doing, but most importantly, you have to understand yourself first before you can invest in any asset. Like, I know I'm not a property investor. I've never been one, right? But there are other people who are brilliant at it, that they know what to do and something happens in property and they can just move in that space. I feel that way about crypto, that if something goes wrong, I know exactly what to do. Where somebody else feels like that in government bonds, somebody else feels like that in the equity market, somebody else feels like that in property. You need to know yourself when it comes to especially the crypto space. If it loses your sleep, leave it.
Yeah, I think the research component is so important. Anything that requires your money requires your research. Taris, I'm going to bring this one to you. We've heard all the myths. Lots of them are not true for sure, but I'm keen to hear from you around crypto, Bitcoin. There's a lot of those questions coming up in the chat as well.
Yeah, I think there's definitely this perpetual myth that like crypto is a great way to get really rich really quickly. And it just, though maybe that was true like 10 years ago. But it's definitely not the case now. Whenever people ask like what they should invest in because they want to buy a house in 3 months, I promise if anyone that worked in crypto knew some secret way to turn to like 300x their money, we wouldn't be working in crypto. We would be on a beach somewhere. It just like any other financial asset, it takes a lot of discipline. Talib made a good point about the volatility. Like when you're coming from a traditional space and you open up like a crypto order book and look at crypto price history, it can probably give you a bit of a shock and be quite stressful. And that's why you really need to be careful about entering kind of with your eyes wide open. And I do think what's really great about crypto is it does present actually quite a convenient jumping into point for someone that is learning about crypto. You don't need to have like set up a foreign bank account to invest into Apple or like and have thousands of rand. You can have 100 rand and invest into all kinds of different cryptocurrencies and watch and see their behaviors, and you'll have complete ownership of that. So I do think from a crypto kind of space, we do see a lot more people approaching things from the long term, looking what the last 5 years have been rather than the last 5 months, which is quite different to the equities market where people are a lot more sensitive to recent movements. But everyone has kind of already echoed this point. It's really about understanding what you want to get involved in, what your research has led you to, being very careful about what you get into. I definitely think avoid things that you don't understand. If you don't understand it, definitely don't invest in it.
100%. I mean, we are about to come to the end of the webinar and announce our Bitcoin winners, which is quite interesting. And as I'm going through a lot of the questions, there's a theme that keeps coming up. And I think it's a great way to wrap it up with our speakers before we announce the winners. It's this idea of where should we be getting financial advice from? Do you always need to go to a financial advisor or planner, or is there some value in talking to friends and talking to family, even social media influencers, to just give you some tips? And I think it's a great way to wrap it up. Is where should we be getting advice from? Taras, I'll maybe start with you. Where should we be getting advice from? What has been your experience?
From Talia, I think that's the best person to go to. No, I think it's important if you're getting financial advice, the most important person to go to is an expert. It's as important as to do your own research, but when you do your own research, you sometimes get very biased to the things you believe in, and when you listen to your friends around the bar, you can get the like life destroying advice. So I'm definitely pro going to an expert.
No, that makes sense. Rochelle, I mean, is there value in talking to friends, family? Perhaps they've made some money mistakes and they can share from a personal opinion. We know there's lots of people on TikTok. They're sharing tips here and there. Some of it is a little bit dodgy. But I mean, what are your thoughts? Because you know the space, you understand some of these things. What has been your experience and what are your thoughts?
So I want to disclaim right at the beginning what Taras said, right? The best thing to do for anyone is to talk to an independent financial advisor that is not tied to any specific company, product, service, etc. An independent financial advisor. Now, not all of us can afford it. We are at different stages in our lives, right? If there's an 18-year-old in here right now, they're going to be like, Raj, you're crazy. I can't talk to an independent financial advisor, right? The first thing that people do is they often overestimate how much it costs. Very often you can speak to financial advisors for free. You just need to know where to look, right? And it depends on the type of advice that you need. But there is great value. I am a firm believer, and that's why I'm on social media, guys. I got onto social media because I literally believed that people can find value. They don't have to make the same mistakes I made, right? And I came with very pure and selfless intentions to social media to help other people not repeat my mistakes. But there are people out there, who don't have your best interest at heart. So it's very hard to sift through the nonsense and the truth versus somebody who can truly look at your situation, your risk appetite, your income potential, your future. That can only be done truly to the depth that you need it to be done by a financial advisor. But there are so many people that I have learned from on social media myself. Even up until today, there's people I learn from on social media and that I've truly respect because I've implemented a lot of what they have put out, tested it, and it works. So you just need to sift through and find the right people who you can learn from.
Yeah, I think we're going to give it to the expert to wrap it up for us. You and thank goodness we have you here. We're going to start following you to get the right advice. But Talia, what are your thoughts on this? Around where should people be getting financial advice from? Is it valuable that I talk to friends and family and see what's out there before I come in and have a consultation with you? I mean, what are your thoughts on this?
I do think it's valuable to be speaking to friends and family because they can also give you insights into maybe, as you said, some of the mistakes that they've made, and then also give you a recommendation as to who to speak to. And I'm also one of those finance content creators where I share information online on my social media page. But one thing to note there is it's general, right? It's not specific to any one individual. And I do feel that speaking to a qualified registered financial advisor is super important because they can zone in on your financial situation and do a proper financial needs analysis for you. And I do believe, obviously I'm an advisor. I can't be out here saying don't get an advisor. But I shared my personal finance content on social media before I became an advisor. So I did that through just my passion, but through that, getting a lot of questions and people looking for someone to help them, I then saw the need to become a financial advisor so I could sit down with people one-on-one. And so it's important to consult people that you trust, so your friends and family that you trust, and do your own research. My favorite clients are the clients who come to me and we work together. They're asking me questions. They're asking me, okay, why do you recommend that? Or what do you think about this? Not just someone who comes and just gives it all to me, because I don't feel that that is being very financially responsible. And I will always, always encourage my clients or people out there to do their own research. And you must understand. And I see myself, I'm your financial accountability buddy, but we need to work together.
I love that.
Yeah.
Absolutely love that. Absolutely amazing from three of our speakers. We played games, we spoke about crypto, we spoke about renting, we spoke about credit cards, so many things that we were discussing. And I know there's people that are feeling very itchy around where's the Bitcoin? Where are the winners? I've got you covered. So we've got our three winners, and what they needed to do was either to be active in the chat box, to ask great questions and to share their opinions, and to, of course, follow us on social media. So a big shout out to these three winners. Miranda Zulu, big shout out to you. You're getting yourself that Bitcoin worth $200 courtesy of Luno. Big shout outs to Lawrence Litwalo as well. And of course, a big shout out to Kamogelo Zwane. You guys are winning them goodies courtesy of Luno. A big and massive shout out to our three speakers. Absolutely amazing. Find them on LinkedIn, find them on social media. They do great, great content. Thank you so much, Taris. Thank you, Rochelle Solferry. And of course, thank you so much, Talia, for sharing all your knowledge. That brings us to the end of Black Brilliant South Africa's webinar on financial myth busting in support of Money Smart Week. Of course, big shout out to our speakers, big shout out to Sanlam Foundation, a big shout out to Luno, and of course, a big shout out to you for joining us. Money is personal. So not every tip or piece of advice is gospel or will apply to you. Find what works for you and only you. And of course, educate yourself. You do have free access to financial education such as Black Brilliant and of course, our amazing speakers. Thank you so much for joining us and a big shout out to you for being with us over the last hour. That brings us to the end of our webinar. Thank you guys so much.